Hi guys, welcome to our class. In today's lesson, we'll be talking about visual composition in art. Basically, this is a very important topic and it's the foundation for everything you do in visual art creation. It's important because mainly as an artist, you would appreciate and understand work of arts, and also you'll be able to create your own artworks. Elements and principles of design are unified across all art creations, from drawing to painting, clothing design, architectural design, interior design, videography, photography, and pretty much everything that you do in art. Now, what are elements of designs? They are really the alphabet of your art creation. They are lines, colors, value, texture, shapes, and spaces. And they are the basic component with which an artist works. These elements can be arranged or organized and controlled with the use of the laws or principles of designs. So basically, principles of designs are certain rules you'll be following to create a beautiful, balanced, and attractive piece of art. And those rules or principles are movements, balance, emphasis, contrast, rhythm, and unity. And when you put them in use, you'll be able to create a unified whole. And usually, humans are attracted to a wholeness and unified wholeness. So that is somewhere in the psychology of humans. And as an artist, you'll be using these elements, which we'll go over shortly, and then you follow certain rules, which are mostly drawn from nature, to create a whole. And let's take a look at the elements of designs. Since this is across a few courses I'm teaching at the moment for photography and for visual arts, I included examples of both forms. So you get to see some examples of these elements in visual arts as well as photography. I figured this would be helpful for you to understand how to look for them, how to recognize them when you are going to do your assignments. So these are some examples of lines. We have a variety of different lines. We do have curvy lines, straight lines, jagged lines. Lines could be different in length and width, in direction. They could be vertical, horizontal, and they could also carry some meaning and sensation in them. So in here, I actually have another important part about lines to share. Line is the basic structural system of all composition. It is a record of action, the path created by a moving point. When two colors, shapes, texture, or value meet, line is created. By implication, if not actually. So what that means is that you might actually see a clear line in a photograph or in a piece of art, or when there's a color change, the line will happen, right? So imagine that there's a river, and at the edge of the river, there is a brown dirt. So different color actually is creating that line for you. That means implied, right? I have some examples that I will show you in a second. Line could be the outside edge of a shape, or line can reveal the contour within. Frequently, lines are seen as linear shapes in our surrounding. And as I just mentioned, characters of lines, the measurement, length and width, type, they could be curved, straight, angular, bumpy, jagged, direction, horizontal, vertical, or diagonal, location, they can cut through a composition or a shape, or they could be creating a border around your composition. And character, expression or emotional qualities they do have. So a line can convey the feeling of being peaceful, laziness, being angry, or excited. So artists usually use those different forms of forms of lines to create different message and emotion. Here are a couple examples about lines in photography. In this picture on the left-hand side, we see the railways. These are lines. So in your assignments, when you're going to look for lines, you could actually use this as an example. Look around the house and see what you can see that have clear lines that you could use. So in this case, these lines are being in perspective and drawing your attention to the building or to the city. There's also a reference to this type of line that is called leading line. So they're leading the viewer to look at certain thing, and it's pretty strong. You could use that in your photograph or your art creation. In this other example, we have some horizontal lines on the deck, and we also have the vertical lines that are happening on either side of the rails. Again, these are a leading line. They are trying to get the attention of the viewer to this end point. We also have a few more images here. So this is another form of line. So this is a curvy line versus the straight line we had in the previous examples. And here we have another leading line. The different color, like the white, is drawing your attention and is bringing attention to the two people on this side, which kind of is interlaced to other rules of photography, which we'll talk about later. All right, so more examples of lines. The trees are representing vertical lines, and this jagged edge on the shore, it is actually a line. This is creating a line. So whether you're creating art, and I gotta actually talk about that a little bit, because some of you are in both classes, and I had actually some requests from students to explain this in both ways, and hopefully this will help you to go through your assignment easier. So pretty much as an artist, whether you're a painter, drawer, or photographer in these cases, the first job you do is the same. That is observation. You are observing the world around you, right? So it is very important to train your eyes to be able to recognize different lines, textures, and all the other elements that we'll talk about shortly. And the difference is that as a photographer, you're going to search for those, capture them through your camera lens. Whereas a painter or drawer in the visual art program, you're still going to search and find them around you, but you're going to sketch them down. And you are, in a way, you are the printer, right? You are going to take that information through your eyes to your brain, and then you're going to produce your own version of it. So that's the main difference. Otherwise, everything else is the same. Next element is texture. Okay, next element is texture. Texture is a characteristic of the surface of a material. Now, if you're looking at creating the art, you're going to use different lines, colors, shapes to create and simulate that texture in reality, right? For example, if you're trying to create a texture of a shiny surface like a satin, you want to leave a lot of light in your piece, and you would actually create the shadows, and with that you can create that surface. As a photographer, you're going to look around and recognize different textures. It might be a fabric, it might be a carpet, it might be a wood, and I have some other examples to show you. But this one here, the artist is trying to use different lines and dots and shapes and shadows to create those textures. Looking at the next slide, we have two different textures. Here there's water, very soft and smooth, and on this other side we have some wood. we also have satin and shiny and silky versus dry and cracked. Now again, similar to lines, the texture can carry out certain feelings for the observer. Here are two more examples. This is a carpet and this is a hardwood. I included these so when you're going to do your assignments, you know how to look for them. These are just some basic examples, but I'm sure you'll be able to find a lot more than these examples. Moving on to the next element, it's color. We have a color wheel, which I would say almost everybody has gone through this through elementary school. And then the difference here is that we're going to look at it in way more details, and we'll have detailed lessons later on. As long as you guys know that another element of design is color, and that's all we need at this point. Now, colors are a little different for both of you, both groups, photography and visual arts. And the main difference, I'm going to move on to this next slide. We have three primary colors when you're mixing your pigment, but you have three primary lights when you are actually taking a picture or any digital work. If you're working on a computer or on a camera, your primary colors are actually your three primary lights, and those are red, right at the top, green, and blue. And when you combine them, you get a range of color in the between, right? When you're mixing your colors in the palettes, you would have three primary colors, which are yellow, red, and blue. When you mix the two primary colors, you get a secondary color. So for red and blue, you get purple. And with yellow and red, you would get orange. Yellow and blue, you get green. And in between, you get your tertiary colors that are happening. So for example, between a primary color of yellow and a secondary color of green, because it has more amount of yellow in it, it's going to be a lighter green or yellow green, and that is your tertiary colors. Similar, it kind of goes on for everything. I have a detailed lesson on your color wheel and how you could actually achieve the color you're looking for, and we'll talk about that when we get there. One thing I need to kind of remind you here is that this first lesson is the foundation of everything you do for art and photography, right? So we kind of come back, revisit all of these as we go through the course. Don't think that you have to memorize all of this for this first assignment. This is a little exposure to what is coming up. And as we go through your different modules and assignments, we are going to focus on one of these elements and principle, and you get to practice them. This is just an overview for you. This slide is also about primary lights and colors, which I just described. So this is clearly telling you different lights, different pigments, or, oh, I just jumped back. There you go, or three primary colors. So I included this slide because some of you may want to print your work, whether you paint your original piece or take a photograph. At some point you might want to use the printer to print them. CMYK is standing for cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. These are the colors that any printer would use, and that's how you would kind of become familiar with the coloring system of it. And RGB is red, green, and blue, and those are your three primary lights. So they are good if you're doing web design, if you're doing photography, or anything that the outcome is going to be seen on a screen, whether it's web or a TV, right? And these are when you're actually having an output into the world in terms of physical printing. Basically, colors have a lot of effect in your piece. They can enhance the elements, colors may be used to enhance the other elements. It can set a mood, attract attention, be used decoratively or symbolically. It can make objects look heavy or light, warm or cool. It can advance or recede. That means you can, with a color, you could bring an image forward or let it to sit back. It can be transparent or opaque. Color plays a significant part in unity, variety, harmony, emphasis, and contrast in a work of art. Next slide, I have an example about warm colors. So on your color wheel, half of it, there are representing, so anywhere from green, blue, all the way to red, they're warm colors. And what they are, warm colors consist of orange, red, yellow, and combination of these and similar colors. As the name indicates, they tend to make you think of warm things such as sunlight and heat. So if you want to create warmth feeling in your artwork, you are looking for warm colors. And the opposite side is the cold colors. And those are blue, green, and light purple. They can calm and soothe. Where warm colors remind you of heat and sunshine, cool colors remind you of water and sky, even ice and snow. So if you're going to take a picture of cold colors, you're also transferring the feeling of calmness, or sometimes cold. If you want to show somewhere is very cold, you would include blues and purples and greens.